Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the 5 different types of preppers that exist. And this is going to be based upon 3 profiles: psychology, ideology, sociology. And generally speaking, you're going to be able to classify preppers into one of these 5 different subsets that we're going to discuss in this video. Now, I realize that there's nuance to everything, and somebody may not fit perfectly in one category or another, but generally, they're going to fit one of these profiles. Now, I understand, like I said, there is nuance and there might be some spillover, but generally speaking, we're going to talk about the 5 different profiles of preppers. Let's get started. So the first prepper we're going to talk about is going to be what I call the keyboard warrior. Preparedness is purely an emotional and psychological digital experience for them. By and large, they consume large amounts of fear porn. They tend to be subject matter experts in all fields of preparedness. They have no real life preparations. They have no real life preparedness skill sets. They have no real practical training. Their confidence comes from anonymity. Digital and personal life tends to not mirror each other at all. They have limited social networks, and they tend to be lone wolves. By and large, they exist online on the social media ether, and they like to pick fights, and they like to troll. So every category of social media has these keyboard warriors, whether we're talking about health and fitness channels, vegan channels, preparedness channel, politic channels, cosmetic channels, I'm sure, cooking channels, animal channels. You're always going to have those keyboard warriors that just want to get into fights with people, and they like the subject from an entertainment standpoint, but they're not really truly preppers. They enjoy talking about preparedness. They enjoy talking about raw shit hits the fan. They like the idea, but outside of it just being a great entertaining digital experience, it doesn't spill over into their real lives. Let's talk about our next prepper. The next prepper is going to be the conspiracy theorist. Preparedness motivated by unverified, unconfirmed theories, motivated by fear, and they tend to have different sentiments, whether they're political, religious, or governmental. What do I mean by that? You have your political Trumpers, for example, that have talked about the Insurrection Act, that have talked about, Trump taking over here coming March 4th. They may even, and they're always going to push the goal line. So if it's not March 4th, they'll probably make up some excuse like they're waiting for the impeachment trial to be over or what have you. Then you have your religious theories, conspiracy theories, and people that are profoundly going down the religious rabbit hole. A lot of this, you talk about prophecy when it comes to rapture, and then you have the conversations of pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, things like that. So then you have people that are on all sides of the equation there, whether they're, like I said, fall into the belief that, Christians will be taken up before things get bad, while they get bad, or they're here for the long haul. So you have these religious sentiments that go to it. And then you have these governmental factors where, the government is going to come in and destroy everything, take over, martial law, troops in the streets type mentalities. And like I said, all these conspiracy theories that they are fueled by are unverifiable, unvetted, but needless to say, we find this heavily in the preparedness circles. Now, they tend to consume large amounts of fear porn. They also tend to project large amounts of fear porn. They reject information that doesn't conform to their ideology, meaning you can give them all the facts, all the stats. They refuse to accept it. They refuse to believe it. They have minimal preparations, limited skill sets, limited practical training, confidence in large groups of like-minded people within their ether, right? So we see this if you go to, for example, Prepper 101's channel. I would consider him to be a conspiracy theorist prepper. And with him and his ether, he's confident and he has a large following. And therefore, these people tend to stick together within their own groups and subsets. Like I said, limited skill sets, limited practical training, confidence in large group of like-minded people. Their digital and personal life tends to mirror each other pretty well. They tend to have large digital networks, but they tend to be lone wolves in real life. But like I said, that digital and personal life, I mean, they are the conspiracy theorists online and in real life. They tend to mirror each other. And like I said before, they do have a large network following online, but in real life they tend to be more of the lone wolves subset. Let's talk about our next prepper. Our next prepper is the stockpile and hoarder. Basically, the allocation of resources through free market initiatives is the epitome of what it means to be prepared. With that being said, the gist of it is the more you have, the better off you are. They tend to live in high density populations. They tend to spend little to no money on training, tend to spend little to no time and energy on skill sets. They have large amounts of resources. They tend to be dependent on infrastructure in their real day to day lives. They tend to be entertained by fear porn. Confidence is directly correlated to the stuff that they have. Their digital life and personal life have some overlap, but they try to keep them separate, especially from an OPSEC perspective. They tend to have medium to large digital networks with limited real life networks. Now let's talk about our next prepper. Our next prepper is going to be the bushcraft, the survivalist, preparedness through self reliance, training, education, and most important, flexibility. They tend to live in medium to low density populations. They tend to spend much time and energy on skill set. They tend to spend a lot of time and energy on training. They tend to spend a lot of time and energy on education. They tend to be very confident and secure in their person. They tend to have medium to small preparedness preparations, basically initial survival preparedness standpoint, posture. They depend on their skills to acquire the resources that they need, and if they can't acquire those resources, they tend to live without. They tend to invest in quality, multifaceted tools. Hashtag minimalist. The bug out is the plan. So the plan is to bug out if there's any kind of actual event that happens. Their digital and personal life tend to have more of an overlap just because they are who they are. They're survivalists. They're people that depend on their wit and their training experience to get them through the disaster at hand. They tend to have medium digital networks and limited real life networks because they prefer to go things in a small group, or they prefer the lone wolf survival mentality. Next, you have the producer, the homesteader, the farmer, the permaculturist. They take preparedness through sustainable living. They tend to live in low density populations. They tend to spend a lot of time and energy on producing. They tend to spend a lot of time, energy, in honing skill sets. They would consider themselves to be jack of all trades. They tend to have medium to large amounts of resources and preparations. They depend on their skill set to produce most of their preparations. They're very independent. They're confident in their person based upon their training and or experience. Bug in is the plan. They have small digital networks. Unless their business is built into that network, then you see larger networks. And in real life, they tend to have medium to large networks. And that's just because in real life, they are producing. So if they are producing, especially if they're running a business through their preparedness, then they have a larger gathering of real life networks of people, because you're talking about everything from the people that they sell from, the people that they buy from, and then the overall community in which they serve at large. So there you have it. Those are the 5 different kinds of preppers. And like I said, there is going to be some nuance and there is some spillover, but realistically, you can put people into these categories and you can see where they fit best. If you wanted to really reduce the spillover, pick 2. I mean, realistically, the way we think about this from a nuance and from a very empirical template would be to look at, like I said, those 3 factors of sociology, look into psychology, sociology, and then look at it from an ideological standpoint. I think those 3 are very good indicators of the type of prepper that somebody is. And if you really wanted to reduce the spillover, pick 2, because a lot of times you have 2 categories that are very unique. Take me, for example. If I had to choose which one I am, I think it's obvious to say that I'm a producer. That is the type of prepper I am. But there is some splashover. But the splashover would be, if I had to choose 2, it would definitely be producer / bushcraft. And that's just because of the ideology of the bushcraft, right? The bushcrafter being self-sustaining, thinking quickly on your feet, using the Semper Gumby model, being flexible. With me, if there is an issue, for example, take Wi-Fi. That is an issue. That is a sustainability issue in many regards, to the fact of it's important to have in order to reach out, keep in contact, to keep my preparedness up. But how much effort and time am I going to invest in it, right? Me, I'm not going to. So therefore, I live without. Somebody else, on the other hand, would say, no, I need that, and they're going to invest in the infrastructure in order to get it at whatever cost necessary, even if that cost is, I can't move to this rustic area because that is something that I'm just dependent upon. Another great example that would contrast me from, say, a homesteader that's also really big into stockpile and hoarding is how I look at feed issues and feed problems. Here on the homestead, I realize that there may be a time where I can't depend on the infrastructure and the system for animal feed. A hoarder stockpiler is going to say, okay, the best way to deal with that is just to stockpile as much shit as I possibly can. My idea of, fixing that issue is, okay, well, I guess we need to start doing some cricket farming, or we need to start doing some larva farming or something like that in order to make ends meet. So for me, the sustainability component is super important. Let's take another example, right? We see the differences in confidence level based upon different sociological attributes, both sociological, psychological, and really, if you really want to break it down into its complete nuance, we can see confidence as well from people's ideology. Take the keyboard warrior, for example, and we're talking about power, right? Keyboard warrior is their confidence just comes from the anonymity of nobody knows who I am, and I like this from the psychological, purely insights of entertainment. Then we see with the conspiracy theorists, they obtain their confidence by being part of a group think. So when it comes to power, they're going to basically have a hardline stance and nobody's going to be able to change how they really feel about any given topic. Then you have the stockpile hoarder, right? As far as power goes, their initial inclination is, well, I have stuff, right? I have fuel, I have generators. I may not know how to use it, and I think that was evident in the hurricanes, and I'll actually link this news article in the description box below, but we saw that a lot of deaths occurred from people that had generators that didn't know how to use them properly, i.e. they were using an engine-based generator inside their home, they died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Quite a few people did that. And so were they prepared in the aspect that they could produce power? Absolutely. But they didn't have the knowledge, they didn't have the skill set, and they eventually killed themselves with their own preps. But they were confident, and the reason why they were confident is just based upon the resources they have available. That's where they derive their confidence from. You take those resources away, confidence dissipates immediately. And then you have the bushcraft. The bushcrafter would say, well, I'm confident in power, no power, because I'm going to completely negate the use of it, meaning, okay, there's no power, well, cool, I don't fucking need it, therefore I'm out, right? Lone wolf, very self-sustaining, has a lot of skill set, has a lot of education, has a very good craft. I'm going to make it irrelevant. If I have to I'm not going to invest major times and effort in this infrastructure when I'm just going to cut it out of my life, and therefore it's no longer a non-factor, right? And then you have the producer mentality where, yes, I have solar generators, I have gas generators, I have the skill set to use it, I know how to use it, and I will prioritize. But realistically, I will do what I can, but should, I prioritize, if it doesn't meet the priority of what I need for power, kind of like with the bushcraft mentality, I go without. A great example is here in the next room next to me, I have almost 100 eggs in the incubator, and they should be hatching. They're in lockdown. Incubators in lockdown, they should be hatching at any time. I'm going to put all my priority as far as power goes into those chickens because I can live without power for most of the things I need here on the homestead. Now, I have lots of power generation sources, but I will prioritize. As far as heating the home and other things, I have already made arrangements to have that off the grid. But for what I need to prioritize, I prioritize it, and then for the rest of it, I go without, right? And so a lot of skill set and confidence from, for example, bushcraft and producers comes from their personal training experiences, right? Unlike maybe what we see with the stockpile hoarders, what we see with the conspiracy theorists, and see with Key Board Warriors. I don't have to assume I know what's going to happen when the power goes out. The reason being is because I've lived that scenario in real life many times already. So it comes with life experience. I know what I'm going to do because I've already been here, right? Been here, done that. I already know what I'm going to do. It's nothing new. Contrast that with people that are very dependent on infrastructure every day. You're going to see the compiling differences. So I think it's important that we look at this from a very nuanced perspective. And I'm not here to say which prepping style is better than the other, because really preparedness is just the accountability for the human condition. So you have to determine what that human condition is for yourself. And it's going to be different for everybody, right? I am not a fear-porn, doom and gloom person at all in the slightest. But if you look at how I live, well, why is it that you have all these animals, and why do you have this and why do you have that if you're not scared of anything? Well, it's very simple. I can try to explain this with all the nuance and all the sustainability environmental factors, or I can just say it like this, something that's very plain and simple. My human condition is I want to be able to have steak, I want to be able to have lamb chops, I want to be able to have bacon, I want to be able to have fresh eggs, I want to be able to have these foods whenever the fuck I want, right? So I can go through the nuance and I can explain to you the importance of sustainability, and I can explain the importance of all the other stuff to you, which most people won't understand anyway, or I can just be very clear and blunt and understand that preparedness is simply taking responsibility for the human condition and understanding that my human condition would want those things. So like I said, I am not here to tell you which one is the best. I'm not here to tell you any of that stuff. Obviously, I have my own opinions, but this is purely to give you the empirical data of the 5 different types of preppers that there are. So once again, you have the Key Board Warrior, the conspiracy theorist, the stockpile hoarder, the bushcrafter survivalist, and then the producer, which would be your homesteaders, farmers, permaculturists, etc. So I hope this video was helpful. If you think I got this completely wrong, like I said, leave me a thumbs down, leave me a comment in the comment section below. And like I said, and I just want to make this very clear, I understand that there are nuances, and I understand there are some splashovers, and also realize no matter who you are, there's always a better we can always be better. There's always a posture of efficiency that we can improve on. So there you have it. And as always, guys, long live the Republic.